Imagine the chill of dawn across the slate-gray valleys of Wales. The mist clings low, softening the sharp edges of the hills where centuries ago men walked to work beneath the rising light, not upward, but down, into the deep places of the earth. These were the miners of the Welsh hills. Their world was made of stone and silence, a realm lit only by the faint glow of oil lamps and the dull glimmer of sweat on their hands. They carved through darkness, shaping mountains from within, and in doing so they shaped entire towns, livelihoods, and ways of life that still echo faintly in the hollow chambers they left behind. In the soft rhythm of pick against stone, in the hum of the wind over the ridges, there is something deeply ancient, the slow pulse of the earth uncovered. Tonight, we'll drift into that world, walk the tunnels of the slate mines, watch the growth of the trade that carried Welsh slate across oceans, and listen to the echoes left behind by the men who worked in the dark, their lives bound to the cold heart of the mountain. The miners' day began before the light. At dawn, the village still slept beneath its shawl of fog, but the men were already walking the narrow paths that wound up the slopes. They carried their lamps and their tin lunchboxes, their breath showing faintly in the cold. The ground was slick with dew, the scent of heather and damp stone filling the air. When they reached the mouth of the quarry, the morning was still gray. Some went below ground, through narrow passages carved by generations before them. Others worked the open faces, scaling walls of blue-gray slate with ropes and picks. The work was steady, rhythmic, and quiet, each strike a hollow sound that rang through the rock like a heartbeat. Inside the tunnels, light was precious. Lamps burned faintly, fed by oil, their glow catching the edges of pickaxes and damp walls. The air was cool and heavy, filled with fine dust that settled on skin, hair, and lungs. Yet there was calm here, too, a deep, slow patience that seemed to match the stone itself. At midday, they gathered in small groups to eat, sitting on broken slabs or wooden boxes, sharing bread and cheese, perhaps a flask of tea if one was lucky. Talk was sparse. The sound of distant hammering carried through the tunnels like the echo of rain on stone. Then, as the hours passed, the light above began to fade again, though down here it made little difference. The miners worked until the bell called them back, till the day's labor gave way to the cool air outside, the smell of grass and smoke, and the faint sound of children in the distance. For them, time was not measured in hours or days, but in layers of stone, a rhythm older and slower than any clock. And when they returned home, their hands were rough with dust, their faces streaked with slate, but the hearthlight waiting for them was soft and golden. The world above was small and warm. The world below was vast and silent. In the 19th century, the Welsh slate industry rose like a tide. From small quarries cut into hillside rock, the trade grew into an empire of its own. Slate from Wales covered the roofs of London, Paris, and New York. Towns like Bethesda and Blaenau Festiniog became hives of activity railways. Mills and workers' terraces spreading out from the mines like veins of stone. At the heart of it all was the slate itself, that shimmering, layered rock that split clean and sharp under a practiced hand. Quarrymen became masters of their craft, reading the texture of each slab as if it were a living language. They knew by touch which seams would yield and which would crack. Their skill transformed mountain slopes into geometries of labor, terraces, and inclines. Cables and carts all balanced between the gravity of the earth and the ambitions of men. But for all its prosperity, life in the slate towns was not easy. The work was dangerous. Dust filled the lungs, stones broke free from walls, and accidents could happen without warning. Yet communities thrived in the valleys, built around chapels, choirs, and a shared pride in their craft. In the evenings, hymns rose from the miners' cottages, their harmonies drifting across the quiet hillsides like smoke. Theirs was a labor both humble and monumental, carving not just stone, but identity, endurance, and belonging. Now, when you walk the old quarry paths, you can still see where they worked. The entrances gape like dark mouths in the hillsides, and if you step close, the air that drifts out is cool, damp, and faintly metallic. Inside, time has stopped. Rusted tools lie beside walls of slate dusted with white, like frost. Water drips slowly from cracks, gathering in still pools that reflect faint light. In some of these tunnels, you can find the remains of wooden carts, rails half buried in debris, and markings scratched into the stone. Initials, dates, sometimes a simple cross. These were not just signs of labor, but small acts of remembrance. The only record left by men who lived their days in the shadows. Archaeologists have mapped some of these places, though many remain too dangerous to explore. Their depths are stories the earth has kept to itself. Sudden cave-ins that sealed chambers forever, or abandoned passages where work stopped without reason. Perhaps the seam ran dry. Perhaps something else happened, a collapse, a fire, a silence no one wanted to break. Whatever the cause, the tools remained perfectly still, waiting as if the men who used them simply stepped away for a moment and never returned. The mountains remember, and the cracks and echoes, and the thin air of the Welsh hills. Their work endures in quiet monument. Above ground, the villages have changed. The quarries are still, their inclines grown over with grass and heather. The houses that once rang with song are quiet now, but the slate roofs remain, each one a piece of the hills that gave it life. Sheep graze where engines once roared, and the sound of the wind has taken the place of hammer and pick. There is something peaceful in this return, the hills reclaiming what was borrowed, the earth healing around its scars. Yet the memory of those who labored here still hums softly beneath the surface. In the stillness, if you listen, you might almost hear it, the slow rhythm of work, the faint clang of metal on stone, the breath of men who shaped the mountains from within. The contrast between the life below and the life above was always sharp. Underground, time stretched and folded, ruled by the flicker of lamplight. Above, the sky opened wide, full of wind and color. Yet together, they formed a whole, two worlds balanced between endurance and light, silence and sound, stillness and motion. As night falls over the Welsh hills, the air cools, and the shadows lengthen over slopes of slate and grass. The quarries are silent now, but their shapes remain, terraces and cuts, lines of effort preserved in stone. The miners are gone, their homes changed, their songs fading into history. Yet the story of their hands and their patience endures in every roof they built, every road they lined, every quiet valley that once rang with their labor. You might imagine standing there now on a ridge, overlooking the old works. Feeling the wind press softly against your face, the world below is still, and the stars are faintly mirrored in the dark pools left behind by rain. The hills breathe their slow breath, steady and sure. Somewhere beneath your feet, deep within the mountain, lies the mark of a pick, the faint outline of a hand in dust. The pulse of the earth, the rhythm they once followed, continues still,